Hello boys and girls, Mrs. McPherson here. Today we're going to look at adding mixed numbers. I have made 2 other videos on this topic, but I decided to make a video to put everything together to make it nice and concise. Those videos can still come in handy if you still need help or have other questions and want to see some more examples. So please check out those videos as well. So we're going to look at a few examples today on how to add mixed numbers. To get us started, let's look at the example of 2 1/4 plus 3 2/3. Okay, so our first step with finding the sum of 2 mixed numbers is we first need to find a common denominator. Notice how I wrote my fractions so they were vertical. This will help me later on when solving the problems and especially when we get to subtraction. So please make sure you get in the habit of doing this. So my first step is to find the least common denominator of 4 and 3. So I will make my chart and let's start with 4. You can use a multiplication table to help you with this part with finding the multiples. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Okay, now let's do our multiples of 3. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Okay, now I need to find the smallest number that they have in common. And if I look, I will notice that 12 is the smallest number that they both have in common. So my second step is to rename those fractions, and we should be getting very good at this point. Okay? Now, when you do the renaming part, it's important to remember that your whole numbers will stay the same. Nothing changes to them because they're whole numbers. But I do need to change my numerators. So 4 to 12, I need to multiply by 3. So I must do the same thing for my numerator. So 2 1/4 will become 2 3/12. Okay, 3 2/3, if I multiply by 4 to get the 12, I need to do the same up top. So 3 2/3 becomes 3 8/12. I'm going to rewrite this down below so it's not as crammed and I have some more space. So I have 2 3/12 plus 3 8/12. And I need to solve. The first step would be to add your fractions. So just like if you were to add these, if they were written horizontally, like this, you just add the numerators together. 3 plus 8 is 11, and you keep the denominator of 12. I'm good to go here because 11/12 is a proper fraction, which means I don't need to do anything else to it. 2 plus 3 gives me 5. So my answer to 2 1/4 plus 3 2/3 is 5 11/12. Okay? Now let's look at another example where our addition part at the end might make it a little trickier for us. Okay, let's look at the example 3 5/6 plus 5 3/8. Once again, notice how I wrote them vertically, one on top of the other. This will help me as I move forward. So let's follow our steps. Our first step is to find the least common denominator. So let's make our chart. Okay, and let's start with 6. Remember to use a multiplication table if you need help. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Now let's do 8. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. So now let's find the smallest number that they have in common. I notice here that the smallest number they have in common is 24. That will become my common denominator. So remember, your whole numbers stay the same. They don't change when you get to the renaming process, just your fraction changes. So to go from 6 to 24, I need to multiply by 4. So that means I need to do the same thing up top. So 3 5/6 will become 3 20 24ths. 5 3/8. From 8 to 24, I need to multiply by 3. So I also need to do that up top. So 5 3/8 becomes 5 9/24. I'm going to rewrite this below. I have 3 20/24 plus 5 9/24. Okay, so remember your first step is to add your fraction. You have 20 plus 9, you get 29/24. Do you notice anything wrong with that fraction? You may notice that it's an improper fraction, meaning that the numerator is larger than the denominator. Unfortunately, we cannot leave improper fractions in our answers. We need to convert them to mixed numbers. So why don't we do that before we add our whole numbers together? Let's start by converting this to a mixed number. We should have practiced this yesterday, and I do have a video on how to do this if you're still stuck. But I will model how to do it here as well. So our first step is to make a division problem, 29 divided by 24. And 24 goes into 29 one time, because 24 times 1 is 24. And you get a remainder of 5. So if you were to rewrite this information as a mixed number, the 1 as your quotient becomes your whole number, the 5 becomes your numerator, and your denominator is 24. So 29/24 can also be thought of as 1 5/24. Okay, but remember, I'm not done with my problem. I still need to add 3 plus 5, which I know is 8. So I need to put all of this together. I know that 29/24 is 1 5/24. So if I just add 8 more wholes to that, what is my final answer going to be? Your final answer will be 9 5/24. This is your final answer. Okay, so sometimes when you add mixed numbers, you will come across the problem where you get an improper fraction when you add your fractions. You just need to take a minute and know that you know how to solve this. You just need to convert it to a mixed number and then add your whole number right on top of that. Let's do one more example. For this example, if you have a piece of paper handy, I would suggest trying to grab that and follow along with me as we go through it. This would be very similar to if we were taking notes in class and you were doing the example on your own. So if you have a piece of paper, I will give you a second to go grab a piece of paper, or you can pause the video and then we will continue from there. Okay, so for this next problem, we're going to look at 2 7/9 plus 3 2/3. Okay, so first let's find the least common denominator. So if you're following along with me on a piece of paper, I want you to set up your chart, and I'll give you a second to fill in that information, and then I will fill it in a moment. Okay, so first you might want to start with your smaller number, filling in your 3's. So let's start filling in our multiples of 3. Next, let's fill in my multiples of 9. Oh, and I realized something as I'm filling it in. What do you notice? What is my least common denominator? My least common denominator is 9. Okay, luckily, 2 7/9 already has the 9, so I can just rewrite that just as it is. But I do need to convert 3 2/3 to 3 something ninths. So to get that 9, I need to multiply my 3 times 3, and I need to do the same up top. Okay, so 3 2/3 will become 3 6/9. Let's go down below. All right, so set up your problem again. 2 7/9 plus 3 6/9. And I'll give you a second to solve 7/9 plus 6/9. When you do 7/9 plus 6/9, you will get 13/9. And you may have noticed right away that that is an improper fraction. So we need to convert it to a mixed number. Take a minute to solve that division problem on your own. Okay, 9 goes into 13 one time. And when you do that, you get a remainder of 4. So if I were to rewrite this as a mixed number, I get my 1 as a whole, 4 as a numerator, and 9 as a denominator. So 13/9 becomes 1 4/9. Let's look back at our problem and let's add our mixed numbers together. 2 plus 3 is 5. So I need to take that 5 because I have 5 and 13/9, and I know I can't leave it that way. So I already converted 13/9 to 1 4/9. And now I need to add 5 to that. So it becomes 6 4/9. Okay, and then that is your final answer. All right. So I hope this video was helpful in adding mixed numbers. If you still have any questions, remember I still have 2 videos that you can watch that go over this process. And please feel free to send me an email if you are still struggling or having a hard time. All right, thank you very much.